It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed. We're back once again for your weekly recap of all the Star Wars and Lucasfilm news. It's a week where Elon Musk unleashed robots that will kill and destroy us upon the Earth, and then caught a rocket with a pair of chopsticks. Other than that, it's been a fairly normal week. Paul, how's your week been?
Oh, brilliant. I just saw on the news that that rocket being captured back to where it had been fired from. It was hilarious. I mean, there's no chance that's not going to go wrong at some point in the future. But no, a great week. Went over to Echo Live at Redditch yesterday. So it was good. There was 2 or 3 people came over and recognized me from Good Morning Tatooine and said what a great show it is. So really appreciate that, the people that came over and said. So yeah, and it was it's a great little event. I really do enjoy going to that one, and I was there this time as a trader rather than a buyer. So so for anyone and everyone that came and bought something from me, God bless you. Thank you very much. And yeah, it was good fun, Brian.
Yep. Lots of news this week as normal, so we'll go straight to the show rundown and see what we're going to be covering tonight.
Yeah.
First up, Disney Parks Droid Factory Advent Calendar is out, and we're going to be checking that out.
Brian, I love that one, weren't he? Loads of droids.
Totally.
We've got the re-release of the Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, which is a game that you might remember from back in the day on, I think it was PlayStation 1, actually. I remember seeing it on. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what they've done with that.
We'll be heading to Jabba's court to discuss the announced Saga Museum, announced from some prominent collectors, what their intentions are with their collections going forward. And it raises the question, how do we preserve our own Star Wars fandom?
Kill it. No, don't. We'll also be celebrating the history of Marvel Star Wars in the new Legacy #1 that's coming out. And I know, Bri, you're a big Star Wars Marvel Comics fan, so that'll be a great one for you.
Definitely one for me. And of course, Celebration Japan is on the horizon, and the first lot of badge art has been revealed. We'll be checking that out.
And then from the vault, we've got actor Duncan Pow talking to Fantatrack's very own Mark Newbold, and that was at Star Wars Fan Fun Day earlier this year.
Yep, Duncan's celebrating his birthday this week, of course.
Happy Cake Day.
Yeah, last but not least in the news, we'll be talking about Jodie Turner-Smith's comments on The Acolyte and the way that she feels that the studios should be protecting actors from criticism on social media. And of course, we want all your comments and thoughts. Jack there in the comments there, hello to Jack.
Hi, Jack.
What are your thoughts on all the news and what we're discussing as the show goes on? We'll include as many of your comments as possible into the broadcast. And Do it go straight into the news, Paul?
Let's do it.
Absolutely. So first up, the Disney Parks Droid Factory Advent Calendar is here. This is the first one since they did one in 2022, taking the same form factor of a sandcrawler, and lots of little interesting droids if you're into that kind of thing. I'm more into the Jawas. But yeah, if you're here to celebrate Christmas, you got kids, Advent Calendar could be something for you. And of course, you get a little bit of. I'm presuming it's going to be little bits of droids in every pack.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, and there's going to be people out there that are just going to want to open the whole thing on December the 1st. Let's be honest.
Every day I would be crushed. It's not a bit of chocolate, and it is in fact a bit of a droid. But yeah, it looks kind of cute. If you're a Star Wars fan, I can see people picking this up, and it's going to be available in Disney parks, and I guess it'll probably come to Disney store as well.
I would hope so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd love that. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I wonder whether the droids that are shown there on that illustration are the ones that you get to build.
Right.
I'm guessing that's probably the case.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if they threw a Jawa or two in there, wouldn't it?
I'm imagining it's
cool.
going to end up being a really vile droid, Christmasized with a Santa's hat or something repulsive.
Humbug.
Humbug. Looking forward to Christmas.
Yeah. It's a nice box design as well. I like the fact that they've done it as a sandcrawler. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. We may have to try and purchase one so we can open it
oh, yes, that would be good. We could play catch up each week.
Catch up each week. If it was chocolates, it would be great.
Brian, you and I don't need chocolate.
Well, that's true. That's true. Something you can't eat, but you can play. Probably won't get fit doing it though. Jedi Power Battles.
Jedi Power Battles. I do remember this from first time round. It was just a bit of fun, really, wasn't it? I mean, it didn't really sort of lend too much from episode one. It really was just evening, mate. It really was just a bit of fun. You could make the characters' heads go oversized and using some sort of cheat code. I didn't have it myself, but I do remember a friend having it, and yeah, we played it not massively, but it was enjoyable enough, mainly because it was Star Wars. But
this is why retro gaming has come back, I think, because it's just the playability. It's just fun to pick up a game and just fight with a lightsaber indiscriminately.
Yeah,
and it has a rough storyline to it, but it's not. You don't think of it as this canon. Is a canon story? What's the links? Will it appear in a TV show or a film or whatever? It's just a game to play to have fun, like the speeder games. Well, you get the lightsaber ones. Even the TIE Fighter games had a story to them if you really wanted to follow it. But really, you were just jumping in a TIE Fighter or an X-wing and having fun. And I think this is why
great fun games
right now.
Yeah. This, like you say, it goes back to a time where people weren't too minded about what canon actually was.
Yeah.
The fact that you were playing just having a bit of fun, and I take it. I think when we discussed this earlier, Brian, we believe that the style of the graphics is going to remain pretty much as it was back then.
They polish it up a little bit.
I
believe in this example they are adding some new features that you didn't have in the original game. Nothing dramatic, but things like being able to swap out what lightsaber you use and little things.
And I think I'm right in saying there's more playable characters as well.
Yeah, Jonathan there in the comments saying that he's definitely getting the game because he used to play it on the PS1, and I think you're finding a lot on this, and that Lucasfilm or Lucas Games, as silent as their Twitter account has been. Until they were criticised just this past week for why have you been silent for over a year. Then they announced this. In fairness to Lucas Games, they have picked and chose quite a good few classic games, and at least I think half a dozen over the past year. Polished them up for to make them playable on Xbox Series and PS5, and they like. And I praise them for that because it's keeping these games alive. There's not a huge cost to bring these out on new platforms. It keeps the game alive. It's classic gameplay. It's a lot of fun, and it makes it a low cost game as well. So you're not paying 120 quid like you're having to pay out for Indiana Jones at Christmas time. If you're like me, because you've got to get the one that comes with the globe.
Is that how much that is?
It is, yeah.
Wow.
Where you can pick this up, probably around about the 10-15 quid mark.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to quite a few retro game show sort of convention type things over the years with my son, and he loves the really good old fashioned type of games like these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like what was just said there, like there's a lot of people buying the new kit to play these old games, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Your most modern games, and the Star Wars games are big releases, but they're not big releases in terms of the length of time and development and the amount of money being spent as compared to the big tentpole games.
Yeah.
The money that's being spent on these games, it's bigger and more expensive than movies, and the returns on them can be hugely significant and more profitable than your biggest blockbuster.
Well, I mean, there was a phase in the 2010s where most of the big releases with the Lego games, and not just Star Wars. There was Indiana Jones, and there was all sorts of other. I think there was a DC Comics one. I remember my Matthew having. Yeah, for me, the story in the Lego game that seemed massive. Now these sort of games, Jedi Power Battles, and things like there was the pod racing game, which I think was re-released recently. Those, they were fairly small games in terms of the amount of levels that you could play.
Yeah.
But they're just great fun.
You're not a proper gamer if you don't walk away with blisters on your fingers. Is the way that I view it.
Or go to work having had 1 hour sleep. Yeah. I can blame lemmings for that. Yeah.
They should do. Excuse me. That's the first couple of news items of the night covered. Do you want to head into Jabba's court now and discuss the Saga Museum?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's do it. So, this past week we got the announcement of the Saga Museum from some very prominent Star Wars collections, and it made me think, how do we preserve our own Star Wars fandom as being the question this week for Jabba's Court. But I think, first of all, we should probably learn a little bit more about what the Saga Museum is up to. Yeah. So basically, the announcement of the Saga Museum was the collections of Steve Sansweet, Gus Lopez, Duncan Jenkins, and Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz and Rich Solomon announcing that their collections, which we know probably better as Rancho Obi-Wan, Boba Cabana, Sasonian, and the Imperial Archives. I managed to say that right. That's the first time today.
You did well, eh? Very well.
Are all going to join forces and form what they're terming the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia, bringing together four of the world's largest Star Wars collections, over 1.5 million objects, into a new public museum, hoping for it to be 200,000 square feet, have things like a store, a cafe, event facilities, indoor theatres, and become something not just as a Star Wars memorabilia museum, but something a really useful part of the community as well, I think, from the way that they announced it. their target is over the next couple of years is to really develop this idea, create designs, find out where they're going to locate it, what's going to be the economic impact, and all that type of thing. So a huge amount of work, and they've already been kind of developing this idea in private, I believe, for a few years as well. And Mr. Newbold also making a comment there that's not going to show because it's hiding behind my graphics. But he's talking to Steve Sansweet and Lisa Stevens this week on Making Tracks as well.
Fantastic.
So check out the Making Tracks podcast on your podcatcher of choice. Just look for Phantom Tracks Radio. And they'll be able to answer probably some questions that Mark's got from us to what the Saga Museum is going to be and how they're going to go about this process over the next few years. So a great initiative, a great idea, and it resolves, a massive issue, I think, for those collectors in terms of they're the top tier of collections.
Absolutely, yeah, the creme de la creme.
It raises its head for them as much as it raises its head to what are we going to do with our collections? do we sell them? At what point do you sell them? Can you how do you deal with that? And you've been changing how you collect a little bit, Paul, and
I've just become more focused, I suppose. And I think that's what a lot of collectors eventually do. They find some specific area of collecting and they stick with that, and then they look at the things that they've got that don't fit into that, and it's an opportunity then to move that on to somebody else that will get the enjoyment out of it. I mean, like I say, this weekend I was selling at Echo Base, and there were 2 or 3 occasions where the Black Series figures I was able to sell on to somebody else, where they were saying that these were gaps in their collections. They were finishing off part of their collection, and you could, the joy that they were getting, you just know that you were moving it on to somewhere where it was going to be appreciated. So that's nice. But I think with the people that are coming together here to form this, thankfully they had the foresight all those years ago to collect the things that they did. And one of the beautiful things about this is that when they come to try and raise funds to be able to put this thing together, there's going to be duplicates galore between the collections. So, how many carded Luke Skywalkers do you need? I know everybody wants loads, but but if it's exactly the same figure, if it is card style A and between them they've got 3, well, you can help to support things by auctioning 2 of those off. And I think that's what will happen. There will be some massive opportunities here for other people to acquire things that they perhaps didn't think that they were ever going to see. I mean, I'm using that as a very, very sort of easy example, but there's going to be things that crop up that just don't come on the market.
Yeah. As Jack says, that he's going to pass his down to his kids. It's up to them whether they keep it or sell it. It won't be alright to see it, but have some happiness in the memories or cash. Great way to put it. I couldn't pass mine down to anyone on the sheer basis of they'd sell it for less than it's worth. But it's to me, when I was thinking of this question for this week's Jabba Court, I was thinking, does it extend beyond collectibles? So they're doing the Saga Museum, which is going to be a museum of Star Wars collectibles. That's one aspect of fandom.
Yeah.
Another huge aspect of fandom is the experiences, and
yes,
Jack and Mark have both mentioned sort of like the internet of Star Wars fandom and having some kind of archive, all the podcasts and videos that people do. How do we sort of preserve what Star Wars fandom is and was? Because it's certainly changing, and it's probably a sad time, I think, at this point in time, where things feel very down and negative, when in reality this should be the golden age for Star Wars because we're getting more content than ever.
Yeah.
So how do we preserve the good of our Star Wars fandom and our experiences?
That's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, there are those out there that would argue at the moment that we're perhaps getting quantity above quality.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I've enjoyed most of the stuff that's come out. preserving that is easy enough in itself because it's probably going to end up forever on something like Disney Plus or whatever that platform eventually turns into. The things that are going to be more difficult are, your fan stuff, your stuff like Fanta Tracks and other podcasts, etc. Um, but thankfully, you can find us quite easily on YouTube and different things.
Yeah.
I normally have a quick look after the show's finished just to see that we weren't too bad.
Mark suggesting that he'll have everything buried with me. Any volunteers to dig the hole? He also making the comment, his old lightsaber stuff still in his hard drive. Love to have it still out there in some fashion. We need to talk about
Yeah,
it, get that
yeah.
happening. I can build. You can provide the content. I can build the platform.
There you go. It.
Said that once before. We've lived to regret it, and it became Fat the Tracks.
Hey, Brian, if you build it, they will come. There you
Build it, they will come. Um, as Jack says, it's all to do with promotion, keeping it going. Yeah, it's. I think having a space like the Saga Museum intends to be like a center of the collectibles, and with the community aspect around it, I think's a very solid way that our fandom's preserved.
Yeah,
Especially because you've got collections like Gus Lopez's, who's got the weird and wonderful, quirky elements from the food items and all that kind of stuff that you love to see. But he's also got the high end ticket items as well that you see coming up in auctions.
yeah.
Um,
He's got props and
yeah.
costumes and all sorts,
On the
hasn't he?
opposite side of that, you've got the likes of Steve Sansweet. That's a huge part of his collection is fan built um, uh, items and memorabilia. And so a huge part of the fandom's remembered just through that, the different memorabilia created for different events. And so I think the Saga Museum is a great place to build from. And it's not just about what was manufactured, it's what the fans did and what experiences the fan helped create, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be quite different to the Lucas Museum, where that is very much a sort of more of a white collar type of museum, if you know what I mean. That's going to be sort of quite formal in many respects. Whereas this feels like it's going to be something very much driven by the fans for the fans of collecting. Um, so I think the beauty of it is, like you say, Gus's collection has got some of those absolutely fantastic screen used props and costumes. I think when we were last over at Farthest From, when Gus was there and he gave a talk, he was talking about the Death Star that he found, and it was like in the most obscure places. Um, and so there's the stories behind the finds as well, which are
Yeah.
fascinating. Um, and everybody who goes to a museum like that, if they still own or if they've owned in the past a bit of Star Wars memorabilia, automatically it takes you back to the moment that you first saw it or you were gifted it. I mean, even now when I go to events in this country and you see the cardboard Death Star playset, it takes me back to when I was 8 and I had that for my birthday, and it was I wish I'd still got that, but still, never mind. You
Jack
live, you learn.
point as well here, and imagine insurance in that museum, and that's one of the
Yeah,
points that they're going public with this just now.
yeah,
The four collections coming together is just a starting point of making this happen. That
mm,
creates your day one of how do we make this venture happen? Well, we've got the items,
yeah,
how it's funded, how it's created, what it hosts, all that's up in the air and for discussion over the next few years. And it's not just dependent on these four collections. It is really for the whole of Star Wars fandom to get behind it and make this
yeah.
a success. One, in terms of launching it, but two, supporting it when it's going.
And I've never been fortunate enough to go over to Rancho for the gala for Rancho Obi-Wan. What does that mean for that in the future? Does that come to an end? Do we, in the intervening years, do we have a number of events there to raise funds?
Yeah.
And you know, I think this is a sensible thing for, particularly for Steve Sansweet to have done, because he's probably the oldest of the bunch. Um, and you know, he wants to leave behind a meaningful legacy, and that's what this will be.
Yeah, definitely. And Jack makes a point. Echo Basis past week in the UK as well. When you on about collectibles, the piece of wood from Jabba's sailbarge on sale in the picture frame for 1,300. Yeah,
An
these
absolute
when you talk
bargain.
about screen use props, it can be wild and wonderful, and the prices can be
Yeah.
insane as well.
A bargain. There you go.
Your collection, what's your plans, Paul?
Well, so I've been selling off my Black Series only because when the when the debacle came about, when they stopped selling the Black Series figures in boxes without windows, because I'm an inbox collector.
Yeah.
When that happened, um, I kind of guessed that they would come back and realize that, you know, that would put a lot of people off. And they did eventually come back to putting a window on the box. But by the time they did that, I'd had such a break from collecting them that it didn't seem any point in rejoining and then trying to get all those that I'd missed out on. So for me, the Black Series no longer was of interest, but I think they're great figures. But I now want to go back to finishing off the holes in my original Star Wars collection from back in the day, which I probably dropped out of partway through the second wave of Return of the Jedi figures in about 84. So I've now got pretty much everything apart from the last 4 or 5 from the last 17. So I'd like to say, I think most collectors, they get to a point where they have focus. So I just want to finish that off, more for nostalgia reasons than anything else.
Anyone
And then also,
did anyone actually witness Mark Newbold sell something? I want to be there just for that experience, but
I tell you how bad it got, Bry. He was talking to somebody, and I sold something from Mark's table to somebody else because I just don't think he got it in his heart to do it. I'm still convinced whatever was sold from that table, he would then walk around the show, find somebody else that's selling it for £5 more, and buy it off them.
I was thinking he'd be doing more. I'll sell you. I'll do trades. So two of them for one of these. So he
Yeah.
ends up with more in his collection. But yeah,
Now,
my collection, I'm going to burn it. I'm going to burn it all. Nobody's getting it. Nobody's going to benefit from it but me. It's mine. I can't take it with me. Nobody's having it.
so the only people's eyes that will get joy will be your own.
Yeah, but the good thing is, other comic and book collectors' value collections will go up in value because there's one less of them exists.
Exactly.
So if you've got one of the 6 comics ever printed that I've got, suddenly it's going to be one of 5. Think of the wonderful contribution to the
Come
fandom.
on, Bry. You're sitting on a fortune there, mate. You need to get some of that shifted.
There you go. Jack says he went to buy something off Mark, but he said it's just for display and not for sale. That I can believe. That's how you preserve your fandom. Go to a show and just display it.
I think Mark just wanted a day out. That's all it was.
And we were talking about Black Seas, Chris David as well, chiming in. We wouldn't want the husband to do the Black Seas to the detriment of the vintage collection. Doesn't know if there's any noise in slowing down the 3.75 range, but just releases for the vintage collection seem so far and few between, especially not giving us background aliens from Jabba the Hutt's palace, etc., which is very true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting, this current drive for Tatooine as well, and it's across multiple sort of lines. I do think that anybody that's pre-ordered the Cantina set, should they wish to sell that, I don't think they'll have any problems in making quite a nice profit on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's it for this week on Jabba's Court. As you know, Jabba's Court is part of Good Morning Tatooine. Your weekly recap of all the latest Star Wars news, streaming every Sunday at 9 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in New York, and comes out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Fantha Tracks TV as well.
But we've
Back
not
to the
done yet.
back to the news, and next up, I was talking about just burning them. We were talking about comics.
And why not?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, this is nice, isn't it? So you can celebrate the history of Marvel Star Wars in Star Wars: A New Legacy #1. So this is going back to basically 10 years, and I can't believe that's flown by, because I can remember getting issue 1 back in 2015. So obviously it's not quite 2025 yet, but they bring things out a bit early.
Yep.
And this is the modern collection of Marvel comics from its second era, if you like. I collected Star Wars Weekly back in the day, and then obviously went into Empire and then Jedi. I think I had pretty much all of the Jedi ones until very late in the run. And then obviously Dark Horse Comics took over Star Wars for quite some years, and they were pretty amazing comic books too.
That was the golden age at Star Wars.
I think it probably was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolute tripe came out of the Dark Horse era. But I must that they had some amazing content, and it's because every single series took a risk and took a gamble.
Yeah.
And some of it worked spectacularly well, and some of it was shockingly bad. But
do you think they worried? Do you think they worried about canon with the Dark Horse comics, or do you think they were just sort of focused on story?
I think story came first.
Yeah,
they made it work for the canon. Canon was a lot more flexible in the Legends days because it was so trodden on, so much. Chris David asking there if I got the comic packs with the figures. I did. I'm missing about 3 because there were some that were US store exclusives that became really difficult to get. So I think I'm missing about 3 from my collection, which was like
they were nice. They were nice, but even some of those heralded back to the Marvel days, didn't they? So it was like Fen Scheisser and characters like that in there.
But in terms of this new Legacy 1, I think it's nice to celebrate the fact that it's a decade since Marvel took back control of the license. It's great to see some of the writers, Charles Soule, Jason Aaron, Kieran Gillen, coming back, as well as some of the artists. I hate this A New Legacy kind of thing because it feels very much like a Marvel reboot that Marvel like to do in their own Marvel line. Star Wars shouldn't be rebooted. I'll not get into the Legends versus canon because there needed to be a fresh start. The Legends on as far as it could, and they backed themselves into so many corners. So it was the right decision. Let's just refresh and restart. But yeah, don't like the idea of a new legacy. Let's hope that it's not trying to unpick and undo.
So this potentially could be a reboot of the reboot of Star Wars. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Jack's saying here he'd like to start collecting nowhere at the start. Maybe this one's the best place to start issues.
Well,
ones come rare if you're into the ongoing monthly comics. So yeah, that's maybe a great place to begin, especially if they're sort of presenting it as kind of like a new era.
Yeah. It is always good to start at the beginning of a line of things, isn't it? So this would be a good point to come in, and then if you enjoy these, then look back to like the origins of some of these characters. I mean, there's Dr. Aphra on the cover there. I've got a Dr. Aphra 3-figure set somewhere, but whether I've actually read any stories, I don't recall. I don't think I have, but I know a lot of people do rave about Aphra and the 2 droids. Is that one that you particularly
have
been interested in?
Really strong, and it ended recently, and it made sense to end it when it did. I know a lot of people weren't happy because they loved the character. Taking it as far as they could at that point. I think they need to give a break with the character in order to find something new. They were trying to sandwich her into too many different things where she was Vader's and the Emperor's best friend, you know. But yeah, it's good that they're celebrating a decade. It's good that they're like, let's try and do something new. It's good that they're bringing these people back.
Yeah.
Don't be trying to do too much of a reboot, and don't try and pool everybody that you've created in the past 10 years into one story, because that never works.
No. Are there any of the comic series that you've read, Brian, that you thought would translate well into a Disney Plus TV series?
Yeah. Mike Stackpole's Rogue Squadron. He did both the novels and the comics. It's a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer as a TV series. I never got the idea of why they wanted to do it as a movie. The only reason to do it as a movie was if the movie was going to be the precursor to launching a TV series.
Yes.
It's the perfect story of the week. It's your non-Jedi, nondescript, what are the fighter pilots up to this week kind of thing. And I think it would work tremendously.
I really do think we're crying out for a series that doesn't focus on the Jedi.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you do want a series that focuses on the Jedi, then you go back in time to the Knights of the Old Republic type stuff that appeared in the comics, Tales of the Jedi, as well as the video games. It's a no-brainer if you want to go old school Jedi. I really liked the Crimson Empire stuff they did with the Red Guard, the Emperor's Red Guard.
Yeah.
It was different. It was clever. And they linked it kind of neatly to what was going on in the novels in the end. There was lots of neat and clever stuff. They also did one where they jumped really far into the future in terms of Star Wars Legacy, where you had ancestors of Luke Skywalker, for example. And you were able to give everything a kind of fresh spin, but some degree of familiarity as well.
Yeah. I'd probably go for Tag and Bing. Let's get them a series.
Yeah. Mr. Newbold agreeing on Rogue Squadron as well. But yeah, there's stuff in comics that would translate to TV so well, and possibly we'll see the opposite as well with the Acolyte maybe moving over to comics because it's kind of failed in the TV front in terms of finding an audience there. So
yeah, it might placate some of the people that were really into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Next up in the news, Celebration Japan is edging ever closer. And the badge art has been revealed on StarWars.com. And I'm going to be the first week of my butchering the Japanese language by saying ukiyo-e tradition of illustration by the artist Mr. Naylor. You enjoyed that. And StarWars.com has revealed the badge art without revealing proper full-scale art of all the comics because they've all got these horrible cutaways, and they only showcased 4 of the 5 of them. Come on, StarWars.com, get it together. But you've got Darth Vader. You have Luke Skywalker, which I thought looked really good.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll call him Boba Fett and Yoda.
That's the Mandalorian.
Mandalorian, yeah. I couldn't call that the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's like Boba Fett and Yoda.
Boba Fett and Yoda, they never hung out.
You never know. Wouldn't that be an awesome story in the movies?
That would be fantastic. Yeah,
hung out with Yoda, and you've got Ahsoka with some snazzy pants
and some cherry blossom.
Yeah. But yeah, it's nice artwork. I'm going to flash back to the initial screen. It would be nice if they'd showed us it all in full screen, because you have, if you look closely there on the screen, you actually did have a Yoda there alongside.
There is a Yoda. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Newbold. I hope that's Mr. Newbold saying, yeah, definitely Boba Fett and Yoda, and not him laughing. I'm going to show you. Look, nobody can tell me. Wait to find it. Here we go. Nobody can tell me that's Grogu. Look at the age of him. Look at the wrinkles on the head.
That's Grogu.
That's Yoda. People, that's Yoda. I'm not having it any other way. But anyway, we're going to get another 17 of these, I think. by the time if you're into the badge collecting, you try to collect them all. You have to be friends with powerful people to get all 17, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a few over the years, some nice ones and some ridiculously horrible ones. I kind of like these. It's nice that they're doing it in a Japanese style of art, which doesn't feel particularly racist, because normally when you go to shows, Lucasfilm has got this habit of what's the most condescending way that we can celebrate that country. So if we come to the UK, we're going to do a tea set based off of Willow. Go to Germany, you're going to get a Stein beer mug.
Yeah.
Go to Orlando, you're going to get an orange on a stick. I always find it condescending, and so I'm looking forward to what they do in Japan. 100% they're going to do Star Wars chopsticks. It's like,
oh yeah,
100% they're going to do that. So yeah, I was quite impressed with this, and I actually think it would be nice when Celebration travels around the world that they got more regional art. So if you're coming to Europe and you're doing a show in Germany, you get a German artist to do some really nice art in a traditional German style. Would be a nice way of celebrating it being that country. So I'm glad that they've gone this way and done the art in this way.
Will we have the Empire dressed as Nazis then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's that possibility. Martin Newbold's there starting a new trend. Orange on a stick. It's true. I have the orange on a stick. I got one. I kept it. It's my memento from being there. I can't remember what they did for Chicago.
No, I can't remember what they. I mean, I've got my Chicago shirt on today as well, but I can't remember what they did then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But normally they find some way to be offensive at each show. Unintentionally, with the best intention. Football kits they did in the UK, didn't they?
They did, yeah, that's right. We had football shirts, yeah, and then there was a lot of things based on
Mr. Newbold with
telephone box and different things.
Mark suggested their Chicago stab vest. Possibly, I nearly got murdered at Star Wars Celebration Chicago. That would have been a great
celebration stab vests. You heard it here first.
California, it must have been sun cream or something. I can't remember, but there's definitely one for every show. Where you think they must have been thinking, "Oh, this is a great idea, aren't we clever?" And you just think, "No, it's cheesy, horrible, borderline racist." But yeah, I'm digging this art. I've seen a lot of positives online as well. I think everyone's kind of liking it.
Yeah, it is.
I like collecting the badges from events that I go to, so I appreciate a nice badge art.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Definitely. Apart from Ahsoka and her, who was a golfer that used to wear the long john pants? Anyone remember? That's who it reminded me of.
How far are we going back?
1990s.
Blimey,
I used to call them skittercatcher pants, but I don't know what the proper name was.
It wasn't MC Hammer, was it?
That kind of trousers he used to wear on the golf course. That's another. We'll call that MC Hammer Ahsoka.
I can't think who you're on about.
It'll come to me. Anyone in the comments remember golfers? He was American.
Yeah.
Don't know. I want to say Payne. Someone Payne.
Wasn't Tom Arnold? No.
No, definitely not. But there we go. Well, perhaps next week we'll have the answer.
Let's hope.
Meanwhile, before we get taken off the air, we should probably enter the vault and see what content we've got to celebrate this week. And Duncan Pow, I believe, because it was his birthday this past week. So Mr. Mark Newbold, who's in the comments there, making great comments like he loves Badgers. Not sure where that comes from. But Duncan Pow this week. From back in springtime at Star Wars Fan Day, which is one of the best events in the UK you can go to. So I think we should head into the vault right now.
Run VT.
So the role now, how did it come to you? How did you develop into a game? through Rogue One and into Andor?
Well, you have to. Now that's a question for the executive producer, Tony Gilroy. It's not a question for me. You know, the character developed in Tony's mind, which turned into script, which turned into a phone call to come and be involved, and you know, I will do anything that guy asks me. So that's how I ended up where I am.
So, running off Rogue One, I mean, obviously Rogue One was a blow-up, mind-blowing success, billion-dollar film. Nobody expected. I was going to say Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expected more from that because of that sort of wall bunch ending. But then Andor comes along, and you're involved in Andor, of course. So how did that come to you as an actor? How did that roll along?
How did it come along? Well, I was getting ready in 2020 to go to South America to travel to the Amazon.
Nice.
And just before I left, I had a call from my agent who said, "Oh, we've had a call from the office of Nina Gold, who said you should have a chat with Tony Gilroy because Andor is going into production and Tony has some plans for you. So give him a call." So I gave Tony a phone call and he said, "Well, you know, I was just about to give you a call." And he told me his plans for the series, for the character. I told him I was off in the Amazon. He said, "Come back in one piece." Of course, I went in the Amazon. While I was in the Amazon, the pandemic happened.
Right.
So
is that a good place to be during the pandemic, or a bad place to be?
Well, I got home, but it's not a good place to be when you go in there thinking you're going to come out and start filming, you know, Andor, and to come out and find that instead of doing what you thought you were going to be doing, the whole world has shut down. But I made it home in one piece, and you know, we all went through together what we had to go through, and it was good to know. Much later than anticipated that the show went into production, and well, just to be involved was, for me, was a gift, and I cannot take my hat off enough to the producers, the crew, the directors, everybody who was involved, you know, from top to bottom, to make that show during the COVID pandemic. I think to make a show like that anyway is something, maybe if you saw the detail, what goes into making something like that. And I think of them making that show during the pandemic with the testing that we had to do with, it blows my mind that you even have a show to watch.
Are you aware of how well regarded that show is amongst the fandom?
Well, yes. Yes, from being here, from coming to places like this. But I think also because, you know, I grew up a Star Wars fan, so I'm a Star Wars fan. So I know what I like. And I think when Tony first told me of his plans for the show, how he saw these parts of the Star Wars universe and the plans he had in place, and then, you know, it's Tony Gilroy. So, you know, when he tells you his plans, and then you know that he's going to be the guy that's going to be overseeing and implementing those plans. Then for me, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be something really special. And I don't always watch the things that I'm in. But I watched Andor.
Right.
And for me, who has been a fan of the franchise since 1977, the first, you know, A New Hope came out the year I was born. The first film I saw in the cinema was Return of the Jedi. So
it's amazing how many people came in on Jedi. You see it all the time.
And then, so I know what I like. And when I watched Andor, I was as blown away as everybody else was, and I'm, you know, anticipating season 2 with the same level of anticipation as the fans. I think it's going to be something really special.
Yep, so that is Duncan Pow talking about Andor at Star Wars Fan Day 2024 back in the springtime, and of course giving a little tease as to what might be coming up in season 2. Paul, your thoughts on first of all Duncan Pow's contribution to Rogue One and Andor, and then second, are you excited for Andor season 2?
Yeah, I mean he was great in Rogue One, and it was once we got to the prison facility, and I spotted him when I first watched watched Andor, and spotted him in the background. I thought, oh, brilliant! So this is how they met. So it was the origin story really of his and Andor's character. So that was cool. Great actor, brilliant in Rogue One. More subtle, perhaps in Andor season one, but I take it he will be in season two because obviously there's a link between Andor and Rogue One. Um, yeah, just really looking forward to seeing him again. And to be honest, just watching that little 4 minute clip has made me want to rewatch Andor all over again.
Yeah,
For me, it has been the best Star Wars TV that we've had. Um,
and
I
that's
like the
because it was
fact.
story driven.
Yes, absolutely. I like the fact that it was because of the way they did it. It goes into the minutiae, real fine detail. It is the closest to reading a novel that you will get.
And
Um,
when you think about it, it's essentially one character that we were familiar with,
yeah,
and
yeah,
everything else is just brand new creation, and that shows
yeah,
you how it can be done.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, season two promises to bring in characters that we're already familiar with from Rogue One, um,
Krennic.
which will be amazing to see them again. Yes, your good friend Krennic. Um, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's apart from the odd bit here and there, Andor was the only sort of link to it. And I also like the fact that they didn't go too heavy on Star Wars in it. And by that I mean there was a hint of a TIE fighter here and there. There was a little bit of the stormtroopers, a little bit of Imperial officers, but mostly it was a fresh take on what was going on in that galaxy. I love it. Absolutely love that series.
Yeah. So that's this week's From the Vault, and you can check out part of Good Morning Tatooine on a fairly regular basis. And Good Morning Tatooine, of course, is your weekly recap of all the latest Star Wars news, live streaming every Sunday, 9 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. New York. And we'll release the From the Vaults as their individual episodes over on Fanta Tracks TV as well. Back to the news, and I have a major update. A major update.
Oh.
Payne Stewart. See, that's who the golfer that Ahsoka is pretending to be in the Star Wars Celebration. Roger, American golfer Payne Stewart. I wasn't mad. I knew there was one there.
Are you sure that's not Ronald McDonald?
It's not. That's just
No.
one example of his clothing, and that's not his most outrageous. Mr. Peebled was wrong at his guess at John Daly. Definitely. But
Wow, that's
back to the
amazing.
news, and our last news item, a lot more of a serious item than Payne Stewart and his Skittercatcher trousers, as I would call them. Jodie Turner-Smith commenting on the Acolyte and the way that she felt. The studio and Disney failed to stick up for the actors during a lot of the hate that they were receiving whilst the show was on the air, and even before the show was on the air, to be fair. And her comment, and I'll just read it as she said it. They've got to stop doing this thing where they don't say anything when people are getting fucking dogpiled on the internet with racism and bullshit. And in relation to Disney's lack of response to the Acolyte's reception, it's just not fair to not say anything. It's really unfair. It would just be nice if the people that have all the money, whether that be Disney or any studio, were showing their support and putting their feet down, she proposes. Say this is unacceptable. You're not a fan if you do this. Make a really big statement and just see if any money leaves. I bet you it won't, because people of colour, and especially black people, make up a very large percentage of buying power. They might find that it's actually more lucrative for them, and everyone's using woke like it's a dirty word. She's hopeful that the tide will shift one day, stating that opinions change, what's in vogue changes. We're going to get there at some point, to that place where people stop having a stick up their arse about people of colour being a part of IPs that were created by white people. You know why, she asks? Because we're never going to fucking stop participating. Incredibly strong words. Obviously, a subject matter she really cares about, Paul.
Yeah, I'm only laughing at the fact that you replaced the asterisks with the proper words. Well done, Brian.
I don't forget if you get a chance to say it as said. It's a difficult.
I don't think it's anything to do with people of color. I don't think that was the problem with the Acolyte. The Acolyte didn't land with many people because with as many people as they would have liked, because the story just didn't talk to them.
I think that's a problem in the first instance, that genuine criticism gets ignored on the basis of the people on the extremities and the extremes who will use anything and any opportunity to be offensive online. I think they've got some degree of being anonymous and not being known, and they can say what they want. And to me, that's less the studio's responsibility than it is social media's.
Yes, so absolutely.
I was watching the news just before we went live, and head of Lloyds Bank talking about how 70% of financial victims of fraud in the UK stems from Facebook and Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
So Meta, as a company, have a responsibility there. And I think you also run the risk of dissolving the responsibilities of the individuals who are making these comments. And any of the actors of colour that you go to who have participated in Star Wars, if you go to their social media, whilst the show's in production or on air, any post they make, if you go into the comics, you will see the most vitriolic, horrible, racist commentary, which nobody should have to put up with online, whether you're rich, famous actor or your Joe Blogs just participating in a conversation. So to me, social media is the first step of responsibility. I do feel the studio has some degree of responsibility. I thought what Ewan McGregor did during Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he stepped up and passed comment, and the Star Wars official handle posted it as well. I thought that was a positive. Mr. Newbold being there, he noticed I was stumbling over the word I could not spell it out. Still can't say it.
I spotted that too, but I didn't want to jump in.
Fucking getting fucking dogpiled on here. So I think the studio has some responsibility, but I don't think with every production the studio can come out and have to pass comment on it, because it's happening on every single production. Doesn't matter whether it's Star Wars or anything else. It's just become something that's almost commonplace on social media now. That then your publicity for every show and film becomes the most negative part of the internet commentary.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I think that it does come down more to the social media, or anti-social media, should we call it, side of things, rather than the studio itself. The fact that
someone's posting that kind of comments, and
people putting comments
as a fandom, 50 of us report it.
Yeah.
Then that should be a red flag to Meta or whoever. Something's going on here. What's this account doing? They're just posting racist hate. Ban them. And not just ban them, ban their ability to create new accounts. Because they're able to know what IP it's coming from. So it's not a difficult thing for them to do. Because why would you want that on your platform?
Yeah, there you go. Whoa. I mean, The Acolyte was getting hate before we'd even seen an episode. So, it was getting... it wasn't getting a fair crack of the whip in terms of being sort of aired to people and just letting them make up their own mind. And that's the problem these days, is that nobody's allowed to have an opinion. We're sort of force-fed an opinion by others before we've even seen the thing. And I mean, I've watched Acolyte. I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
it was okay. It was. I think the biggest problem for me was that it was so detached from any other Star Wars that it just didn't really sort of land with me. Had they have made better use of some of the characters, particularly I mean, I think we pretty much know who that was that was peeking out of the cave.
Yeah.
You don't just drop a hint of that in and not do anything with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been that it was planned for season 2 that now won't happen. And then there was obviously Yoda at the end of it. Now, I would have brought all of that forward, condensed some of the stuff that they had, and do something meaningful with them. Use your cliffhanger in a different way. And I think the show didn't benefit from running out of order. I think it would have been better, more linear. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, the hatred leveled at it, I think.
I did think as well. I think she's right in terms of that. Some people were left to deal with it just on their own, and I suppose the criticism also comes back to Jodie Turner-Smith because she didn't speak out about it at the time either. None of the fellow actors, none of the crew, let alone the studio or the brand, spoke out about it. And maybe it is a case of we need more people like Hugh McGregor when he stood up, when he was leading a show. We need more people to do that on the basis of maybe that's the only way to get through to some people. But in my opinion, if you're of that mind to make that kind of comments in public and social media, it doesn't matter who criticises you, whether it's the IP, the brand, the studio, the actor. It's not going to change your mindset.
Yeah.
So it has to come back to me. It's the responsibility of the social media platforms to ban these people. And maybe it then falls back on us if the social media platforms aren't going to behave in that manner, that we as a collective, as a community, we stop using those platforms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only tonight we found a new form of prejudice, haven't we? We've got Mark Newbold, who's clearly grammarist against yourself.
Well, there is that, and but I didn't flag it, and I was going to flag it at the time. I'm now scrolling back looking for it. So if you keep us talking,
yeah,
I'll find it.
Well, I think we can get him banned from Fanta Tracks.
This was there. We need a Star Wars Internet Archive to what everything is that all the grammar and spelling mistakes of Mr. Newbold would take up an internet archive of its own.
Oh dear! If that isn't the pot calling the kettle something else, eh?
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, Star Wars has got a problem at the moment in that it's profitable financially for people to pile in on it.
Yeah.
And the only way to keep the algorithm going is to get more and more extreme. And this is what encourages these people.
Yeah.
So you've got entire platforms built off of attacking a product and attacking the actors before it even airs. And all it takes then is for it to whip up the disgusting people of society that think it's okay then to go and abuse an actor or actress for their performance, when in reality I can watch many a film and think that was shockingly terribly bad. I wouldn't then go out and attack the director or an actor for it. I wouldn't pass comment like that to anyone. I would just not watch it again.
Yeah. I mean, potentially we could have the same problem in a few weeks' time with Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Where
a prime example, if you've got Amazon Prime like me and you've had the week off like I've had, Challenger, the film Challenger, the tennis film, is on Amazon Prime just now with Zendaya, and she was a producer on the film. If you watch the film, her performance as an actress is phenomenal. It's a really great performance. She'll never get an award nomination because it's a horrendous film, like terrible. But her performance in it is phenomenal. This is what always gets me about actor and actress of the year. It's always from the top films, where really the best performances are the ones that stand out as really good in terrible films. That they never win. Anyway, she should, right? But when you talk about terrible films, it's like you just have to watch it to see some of the camera work and the choices in it. It's just like madness. Whoever was making this film, absolute madness. You don't go out there and then start tagging the cinematographer and the director in it and saying you've ruined her chance of getting a really good award for an acting performance because you're ridiculous.
yeah.
In a major film, you're pretending that the camera's the ball in a tennis movie. It's like ridiculous. It's just like amateurish. It's so terrible. But that's a prime example. It's like you would praise the actress, you might tag the actress, say, "Oh, you were fantastic in Challenger." But you're not then going to carry on and say, "Shocking film, though." It's all about your own behaviour. You wouldn't behave like that in real life, so why would you behave like that online?
I think you said all that needs to be said.
I think so. As Mr. Newbold there says, a tiny percentage would say it to the actor, producer, writer's face. Social media gives the cowardly lion all the courage they need.
Yeah, that's true. It is very true.
Yeah.
It all comes down to one word, Brian. Anonymity.
That word. The word of the week.
Oh dear.
We arranged to come back this same time next week and do this all again.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's do it next week.
Will I remember to tag the episode on YouTube as having naughty words in it so I don't get banned?
As what? Not for children.
Not for children. Not for kids this week.
Will you? Who knows?
It wasn't my words. You can say it when it's someone else's. That's the golden rule in my world. Dear. I think we'll come back next week. We've enjoyed it. It's been fun.
We'll try.
Comments. It's been great to have you. Everyone that watched along. We're on... What are we on? We're on X. We're on YouTube. I've lost Mr. Naylor. Don't know what I've done. He's got.
I'm here. I am here.
You are there.
You've basically put me into a banter's mouth.
I don't know what I've done there. Graphics have all gone wrong. We won't worry about it. We'll come back next week. We'll end on this. It's a technical blunder to end the show. It's the way to go. Paul, it's been a pleasure presenting with you again this week. We'll be back next Sunday at 9 p.m. Thanks for the comments, everyone. Thanks for the thoughts of the news items.
We will.
And as Mr. Newbill's reminding us, Planet Leia next Friday, making tracks midweek. We should do the outro, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Did I remember to pull them all together? Let's see.
Who knows? Oh,
FandomTracks.com, Star Wars news in a single file. Head there every single day to get all your Star Wars news covering everything. Interviews, events, podcast reviews as well.
Oh, of course, we're on social media. We're all over the place. You can get us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, and TikTok. And don't forget FandomTracks Radio, like Brian was just saying. We've got all sorts of new content coming out all the time, and you can get it on your usual podcatcher of choice.
And last but not least, FandomTracks TV, over on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, and X. Keep checking out for all the latest videos. Paul, I don't know where you've gone. You've gone into a little tiny little...
I am here. I'm
a little tiny little cube. I don't know what's happened. Look, we'll stretch out. There you go. Look, there we go. Isn't that magic? Live.
She went really well.
Don't know what's happened. It's all gone wrong spectacularly right at the end. We'll have it fixed for next week, though. These glitches, it's just to prove that we are live.
Now, this was pretty slick. Now, if you want to see us on a bad week, wait till next one.
Yeah, this is what happens when you drop an F-bomb.
Oh.
There we go. We've got you back.
Hooray.
There we go. Don't use beta software. Use the real version. I've just noticed I've been using the beta version of the software. Always use the gold release, never the beta version. Fucking amateur hour. We'll be back and we'll be professional next week, won't we? We don't know. Let's end the show before anything else goes bad. Good night, Paul.
See you soon.
See you guys.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FandomTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FandomTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow FandomTracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.